These is red bottoms, these is bloody shoes. Yeah, I butchered that. You've probably heard Cardi B's hit song Bodak Yellow, and like basically everyone else, I couldn't get enough of it. That is until Cardi B released the music video.
These expensive, these is red bottoms, these is bloody shoes.
Did y'all see that? Why is she wearing a hijab with a veil over her face in the middle of the desert? Bodak Yellow shows how music, television, and film still paint Arabs and Muslims in a highly exoticized light. And it's just one example of how Orientalism is pretty much everywhere in our pop culture. Think of Aladdin, think of Homeland, or Sacha Baron Cohen's entire career.
I made that up.
Hi guys, I'm Omar, and this Sunday on AJ+, we're breaking down the concept of Orientalism, where it comes from, and why it's a problem. And just know, I'm definitely going to ruin some of your childhood favorites.
I can show you the world.
And now, I'm about to drop a whole new world of knowledge on you. Aladdin was one of the most Orientalist films of all time. And Professor Walter Denny, who's taught Orientalist art for decades, agrees.
Like those first 3 or 4 minutes of the Disney movie Aladdin are basically very prejudicial. They create a very, very false and very, very prejudicial view of the Islamic world.
Before I upset you anymore, let me tell you why it's so bad by explaining what Orientalism is. Historically, Orientalism refers to the study of the Arab and Muslim world, or what was for a long time referred to as the Orient, which included more than just Arab or predominant Muslim societies. And the discipline basically looked at those societies as though they were interchangeable, inferior, and well, mystical and savage. Just the fact we say there's an Arab or Muslim world is proof of how pervasive that way of thinking was and is. But now, Will Yeomans, a professor of media studies and public affairs, says the definition has evolved.
It's become to mean something else, a critique actually of a particular way of knowing about that part of the world.
The late Palestinian-American professor, author, and activist Edward Said wrote the book on Orientalism, making his Palestinian-Arab identity central to his work.
Fanaticism, violence, etc., always associated with the Arabs, with Islam, so on and so forth. Arabs are always being killed. They're always associated publicly in the public mind and public image with what is negative and regressive.
He called his book Orientalism, and it forever changed the way we think of Western depictions of the Arab and Muslim world. Said also said Orientalism relies on letting Westerners interact with the Orient without ever losing the upper hand. Basically, it's about power.
And his criticism was that the study of it, the scholarship about the Middle East and the Near East and South Asia, was really based on a lens of empire.
Said also said Orientalism presented imagery of a mysterious land full of secrets, monsters, and sensual women. But the depictions weren't just about exotification. Orientalist art and literature often served a more sinister purpose.
One of the most important ideas behind Orientalist art has been to show the Islamic world in a position of either moral or cultural inferiority to that of the West.
And according to Said, that desire to show Arabs and Muslims as morally less than had a very real impact on the everyday lives of people living in the so-called Orient, regardless of their ethnicity or religion. It doesn't just affect Arabs and Muslims, it can also affect Black Africans, Indians, and other Asians. Said's work dissected what media characterizations of Arabs and Muslims in Western news outlets looked like during and after Iran's 1979 Islamic Revolution.
It is from the mosques that opposition to the Shah is being led by puritanical Shiite Muslims. The religious zealots want to return to the Constitution of 1906.
The concept of Orientalism isn't just that there are issues with this painting or that novel, it's that this painting or that novel both create and perpetuate inaccurate portrayals of Muslims and Arabs. It dehumanizes anyone who falls into those groups and supports dangerous policies. And these stereotypes bring me back to Aladdin. The late Arab-American academic Jack Shaheen identified the Orientalist themes and tropes in Aladdin. After its 1992 debut, Shaheen campaigned to make Disney alter the opening song, Arabian Nights. And you probably don't remember this line.
Where they cut off your ear if they don't like your face. It's barbaric, but hey, it's home.
Seriously, he just referred to a made-up Arab land as barbaric, and put it to a children's beat. Shaheen responded in the LA Times, and he said it was a painful reminder to 3 million Americans of Arab heritage, as well as 300 million Arabs and others, that the abhorrent Arab stereotype is as ubiquitous as Aladdin's lamp.
You might not be able to say that it's racist, but you can say it's a misrepresentation of cultures, and it's a blending of cultures, all to serve the purpose of sort of this mainstream American entertainment.
Shaheen also said these pictures would impact an audience's understanding of the Arab world and have a real-world impact, with the negative portrayal of Agrabah serving as what he called Hollywood's fabricated Arab land. Well, he may be right. In 2015, as the US bombed ISIS in Iraq and Syria, a poll found that 30% of Republican voters would support bombing Agrabah. And before you agree, Agrabah is the fictional country in Aladdin. It's not real. Other activist groups criticized the film's character portrayal, with Aladdin and Jasmine having anglicized features and American accents.
You're not free to make your own choices.
Sometimes you feel so
You're just
trapped.
And the rest have really fake Arabic accents and far less attractive physical features.
I had to slit a few throats, but I got it.
But Aladdin is not the only film in recent memory to use Orientalist imagery. There's also Prince of Persia, Gods of Egypt, 300, Munich, Zero Dark 30, and American Sniper. But that didn't stop some of those from winning Academy Awards. You might say Aladdin is old news. Why bring it up at all? Well, it's coming back as a live-action feature, and it doesn't seem like much has changed at all. The movie's already been accused of whitewashing the story with the creation of white characters like Prince Anders.
If you're gonna spend a lot of money on it, you can't really do anything real. It has to be imaginative, it has to play to fantasy, therefore it has to rely on stereotypes.
Orientalist imagery has also managed to creep onto the small screen. Television shows like Homeland and 24 are among the biggest culprits, with Arabs and Muslims often portrayed as terrorists or violent individuals hell-bent on destroying the United States and or Western civilization. Homeland in particular framed Muslims as people you could never trust under any circumstances, even if they were your neighbor. But the terrorist trope is an old one.
The most sustaining sort of Orientalist stereotype is that of the terrorist. And you can see that heavily present in 1970s, 1980s, both literature and film. And today we see that that has become still a dominant trope.
The Brave is NBC's latest military drama, where good versus evil clash, and the evil happens to be Muslims. But there also happens to be one good Muslim working with the good guys.
In many ways, you could say that Hollywood mainstream movies have become a lot more self-aware about this kind of thing, and so they try to change it up or add a little more complexity, for example, by adding in a Muslim good character as a way to sort of balance out a Muslim villain.
And then there are music videos where Orientalist images have been pervasive for a long time, but it's not as discussed as it is in other art forms. Which brings us back to Bodak Yellow's music video, where Cardi B shows up in Dubai, so mysterious, so rich, dresses up in Arab garb, so sensual, so exotic, has a pet cheetah, which is dangerous, rides a camel across a desert, aka every Arab's backyard apparently. Okay, so maybe Cardi's never even read Edward Said and may not even know what we're talking about, but in her defense, she's not the only one doing it. There are plenty of other examples of musicians using Orientalist images in today's music videos.
I see it as a form of sort of silencing. It's a form of erasure of a culture. It's oversimplification. And people have a right to be insulted by that, and they have a right to protest it and demand that they be treated with a little more respect.
So what will it take to ensure that we stop exoticizing Arabs and Muslims in our movies, TV shows, and favorite music videos? Love you, Cardi B. Growing up, whenever I watched Aladdin, I was somehow able to separate between that portrayal of Arabs and my own Arab family. Have you guys seen this sort of exoticized imagery for other communities or in TV shows, cartoons, films? Let us know. Let us also know what you think, and come back next Sunday for another great video. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.